Hi, join me, Surajat Marber on ITV every Thursday night, 8 to 9 on ieSports Digest, a comprehensive roundup of all sports, local, regional, and international. We will reach out to our villages and our communities in all areas of Trinidad and Tobago to highlight their sporting activities. I'll also invite prominent guests to share their views and address current issues facing sports, focusing on realistic solutions. Join me on ITV.
ieSports Digest, Thursdays at 8 p.m. right here on IETV.
Hi, pleasant good night to all our viewers and welcome to IETV Sports Digest. This weekly program will, as we move forward, aim to keep you, our viewers, informed and updated on all sports, sporting activities and issues locally, regionally and internationally. If you need to know, join us every Thursday. If you have missed out during the week and you are wondering what happened, what was the action, where did it happen, who won, who lost, join us every Thursday, 8 to 9 to be updated and to be informed. For the regular viewers of IETV and those joining us tonight, the rebranding of IETV has seen an expansion of our programming content to include sports and other talk shows. We recognize here at IETV the immense contribution of sports to the development and maintenance of a good citizenry and patriotic citizens. This show will help to provide opportunities for all our sporting organizations, for our villages, our communities to be on board, to highlight the individuals who have achieved, those who have been contributing over the years. And we'll ask you, the viewers as well, to be part of us here. So tonight, we will kick off the program with discussing secondary school sports. We'll have three prominent gentlemen from secondary schools. We will have with us Mr. Merere Gonzales from Secondary School Football League. He's the president. Mr. Joseph Brewster, who is the president of the Trinidad and Tobago Secondary Schools Track and Field Association. And here live in studio, we'll have Mr. Nigel Maraj, president of the Secondary Schools Cricket League. Coming over the last 2 years and growing, we have been hit by COVID-19, which has thrown sports way back. We have struggled to get back on stream. We have had restrictions, we have had lockdowns, we have had games being played in empty stadiums. You, the viewers, the sports fans, would have at times sat at home and wondered, what is there to see on that TV? Take up the remote, switch from channel to channel, looking for some sporting activity. Most of the time you might pick up a repeat, sometimes nothing. You get back to the old age of picking up a book, a sports book and reading. I know from watching TV that a lot of the stations went back and started to look for news all over the world, leagues that you never heard about, sports that you never heard about, you began hearing. We are getting back to normalcy. That's great. We expect to see more sports coming on stream, and you can expect on IETV here that we'll be dealing with these sports, these issues. COVID has not, COVID has not left us as yet. It's still there because recently with the test match, Rohit Sharma, the captain of India, was forced to miss the test match. And even today, with the Bangladesh versus West Indies, Kimo Paul was forced to miss the T20 because he was on the COVID watch list. So we are getting back on stream, and at IETV Sports Digest, we try to keep you updated and abreast of what's happening. So, and we can start with good news today. West Indies won again. West Indies defeated Bangladesh in the T20 game today to go 3-0 up in the series. So we are continuing on a good footing in West Indies cricket. We are seeing some success, especially in the shorter version of the game. And Puran had a great day today, our local hero, one of our local heroes. So we are seeing movement in the right direction. For those of you who support India, you know that recently the test match was, they lost the test match to end the series 2-2. It was a great, fantastic test cricket, and we must thank Butler for that, and Joe Root. They have been playing fantastic cricket. We have seen the the way Richard punt bat, and it's something that is changing Test cricket. You know, sometimes people say Test cricket is dying, but if we get that kind of those kinds of performances, we can expect to see people turning back out as they did in England with the last day sold out. Although the tickets were given free, yes. For those of you who don't know, they give out the tickets free for the last day, but it was packed. And England, you know, gave them a performance to look up to and end up drawing the series. So those results today were that West Indies defeated Bangladesh, India defeated England in those T20. One of the big news coming out today out of Wimbledon is that Rafael Nadal has an abdominal injury and has have to pull out of the semi-final. Therefore, Nick Kyrgios has a walkover into the final. In the other semi-final, we'll see one of our international heroes, Novak Djokovic, coming up against Cameron Norrie in the other semi-final in Wimbledon. So that is coming up soon. And today in the women's semi-final, Elena Rybakina defeated Simona Halep 6-3, 6-3, and Ons Jabeur defeated Tatiana Maria 6-2, 3-6, 6-1 to move on to the final. So Wimbledon is on. If you switch your channels, I'm sure right now, and you look around the world, you'll see the Tour de France is on as well at this time. In terms of international sports, that's going on at this time. And one of the all-time favorite is in the lead in that one as well. Tadej Pogacar, for those of you who follow Tour de France, he is in the lead at this time. Second place is Michael Matthews, and third is David Godua. So Wimbledon is on, the Tour de France is on, and for those of you who have not looked at Tour de France, I encourage you to look at cycling in a different way. It's one of the greatest challenges in terms of world sports. When you look at how grueling it is, the effort it takes out of them, and it's enjoyable. It'll be strange, but you'll find that if you look at it, it's actually enjoyable. And what is even more, just as great, is the scenery of France as these cyclists go over the mountains and so on, and the different scenery that they go through. So I encourage you to look on that. In terms of local sports, you look at Trinidad and Tobago football. Right now we have the Ascension football tournament is on, the TTFA. And the leaders at this time are Rangers, followed by Police FC, Defense Force, Deportivo, AC Port of Spain, and Cunupia FC. So that's the Ascension. That's on right now in terms of local sports. Recently, we had a fantastic under-20 tournament run by the TTFA called the Tiger Tanks Under-20. And that completed recently when Defense Force defeated St. Clair Coaching School in the final of that event. Another tournament that had great support, great coverage, great support from the people, all the different areas. There were people coming out to watch. There was a great support for this level of football. And in that event as well, which I must mention because it's very important in any sports that you are disciplined. So we had the winners being Defense Force and St. Clair Coaching School running second. And the most disciplined team in that tournament went to Petit Valley Diego Martin United. And actually right now I'm in Diego Martin, that is where the IETV studio is, so big up to Diego Martin, well done. So there are a lot of sports happening around the world. As I said at the beginning, tonight though, as we launch this, the first of our programs here on IETV, we want to chat with these gentlemen on school sports. As I said, COVID has put us on the back burner. School took a long time to get restarted after the lockdown. Finally, schools have opened back, especially secondary schools came on first, the primary came on after. That's why I'm focused on secondary school, because they were back on first. Primary school will come on stream soon in this program. So we want to discuss with this gentleman where they are now in terms of school sport, what preparation have been put in place, where they are ready to kick off. We may still have some protocols being needed in terms of how we move forward. So we want to have this discussion. But before we move on to that, let me first of all say a hearty thank you to the sponsor of today's program, who is Lazare and Sampson Travel Service Limited. To Lazare and Sampson, thank you very much for being you'll always be recognized as the first sponsor of IETV Sports Digest. So thank you very much to Lazare and Sampson for sponsoring today's program. So I would like to start by bringing on these three gentlemen as I introduce them. In me in studio is Mr. Nigel Maraj, who is the president of the Secondary Schools Cricket League. And joining us on Zoom will be Mr. Merere Gonzales, president of the Secondary Schools Football League, and Mr. Joseph Brewster, who is president of the Trinidad and Tobago Secondary Schools Track and Field Association. Good night, gentlemen.
Good night.
Right, so while the others are coming on in Zoom, we have Mr. Maraj here with us. So good night, Mr. Maraj.
Good evening, Suraj, and thank you very much for welcoming me to your first IETV Sports Digest program.
Welcome. So tell me, you would have been the first to kick off sports was allowed in school, but that inter-school rivalry have not started off as yet. I mean, I'm sure you would have thought that you would have been able to get something off last term. That did not happen. So where are we in terms of secondary schools cricket?
And you are correct, Suraj. The Secondary Schools Cricket League was in fact ready to start. We indeed had our discussions at our national executive level, and we also reached out to our schools, asking for them for whether or not they were willing to participate in this year's activities. But because clearly we had to get, first of all, the permission of the Ministry of Education, and we weren't able to get it. And I wanted to, it's not that we're blaming the Ministry of Education as such.
Yes, the process.
I understand that, and I think we have to be mindful sometimes as organizers that the Ministry has a responsibility not just to us as an organization, as an SNO, but also to all of the children and their parents too as well. So we understand that, and we know there were legal requirements as well too. So it didn't happen. But our plans are still there moving forward. We have a lot of things that we want to do because 2022, in fact, Suraj, is the 60th anniversary of the league being formed.
Great, fantastic. I'm aware of that. And it's also in terms of Origin sponsorship, it's the
25th anniversary of Origin.
So it would have been a fantastic year for secondary schools cricket because you'd have been celebrating two different anniversaries, two milestones.
Correct, and as we do have it too, Trinidad and Tobago is also celebrating the 60th anniversary of independence too.
Okay.
So all of that was coming together as well.
Okay. But there is still time. We have not completed the year yet. So hopefully secondary schools cricket can still have something come the new term once the COVID is no longer as persistent and lingering on as it has, and you can still have something to close off the year and then look forward to transferring some of the celebrations to 2023.
Indeed. During the July-August vacation, actually, we were meeting with the Ministry of Education to discuss our plans moving forward. And one of the things we want to do is, one, during term one, normally SSCL doesn't really have anything planned. But this year, we want to, one, try and get some festivals for our youngsters, mostly our Form 1 and our Form 2s, as well as engaging in maybe some sports camps or some sports caravan, so that we're able to go to other schools and re-engage those children into the activity and get more and more other children who may not have thought of cricket as a sport to play to get into playing the sport too as well.
Great, so it's actually, I'm sure you're aware with something that I ran in the past, the STAR program in secondary schools for Form 1 and 2, Forms 1 and 2. So basically we're going along that same line, at least get them engaged early.
Indeed, and that program that you initiated or were part of, indeed was a brilliant program that we need to look at what was the very good benefits of that program, what were the, when we do a SWOT analysis, what are the strengths of those programs? Let us institute the strengths of those programs back again into the secondary school system. Because we all know and we understand, by the way, that sports is a powerful means by which we could engage our children into positive activity. One of the issues we had over the last, when we came back to physical learning, was school violence. Yeah. And we understand.
So we'll go down that road and bring the other gentlemen, but very much so. And on that note, let me say a special good night to Mr. Forbes Prasad. He was the one, a major player, although I came up with the plan, he was a major player as secretary of the cricket board then and getting the STAR program up and running. So can we bring on Mr. Gonzales? And and Mr. Brewster. Hi, good night, gentlemen.
Good night.
So,
good night, everybody.
well, you have heard the tone of the discussion. As I said, we can engage in a discussion rather than interview fashion. So, can we start with you, Mr. Gonzales? How is SSFL? Are they up and prepared to kick off and go running?
Very good evening to everyone, and thanks for the opportunity to be part of this esteemed program. The volume is a bit low, but I did hear the question that you asked. And as far as the secondary school football league is concerned, we are in a state of preparedness for a season, which is expected to commence at the middle of September 2022. We are extremely heartened by the fact where the restrictions have been lifted. Prior to that, we have been having, and we still continue to have, numerous meetings with various stakeholders, entities, and more so even sponsors, as we embark on this much anticipated season. 2 years and a half in hiatus, where the student athletes were unable, because of the COVID-19 pandemic, to participate in sporting events inclusive of track and field, as well as cricket, among others. We are very eager to resume, and more so importantly, to provide that platform, which is a much deserving one, in the school system to facilitate, as part of the curriculum, the sport of football, so that all those who are desirous of taking part, male as well as female, will have the opportunity, varying from the under 13 Form 1 straight up to the Premiership Division. So we look forward at this point in time with application forms being sent out to the respective schools. And within the next few days, we shall be having the officers meeting, the National Executive meeting, and then the General Council meeting, as to further concretize, finalize, or move towards having a season for 2022 September.
Great news, Mr. Gonzales. Mr. Brewster, how is secondary schools track and field? Ready to, as I said, start running?
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me. I almost, when Mr. Gonzales spoke, I almost said touche, because he said everything that we were going to say, I was going to say. When COVID-19 hit, we ended on a high in Tobago. We had our first championships in Tobago, and it was one of the best championships we ever had. So it was a high. The day after that came the announcement that we are closing down. That was a Friday. I was still in Tobago and was worried about getting home, and was more worried about our children getting home. We have been closed for 2 years plus, but in the middle of that 2 years, the Secondary School Track and Field Association put on something called the Race Against Time, which was a virtual run, 20-minute run, as far as you could go. And we did indeed, with the help of our sponsor at that time, NGC, provide tablets for students, 32 tablets for students of Trinidad and Tobago who would have won the varying categories. And with Blue Waters, we provided water and stamina for adults who took part. Yes, we are in a state of preparedness. Just like Nigel said, we were hoping to shoot off this term here. It didn't happen. And maybe for all the best reasons it didn't happen. We were quite disappointed that we were not able to get a competition off. But it gave us time to continue the plan and to sharpen our sword for a season to come. Our season this year begins in September. There are some changes that have been made to the format, and I could share that quickly here with you. We used to go all 8 zones. Now we are doing 3 regions: Tobago, North and South Central, and so on. But apart from that, we looking back at that 2 years that has gone, we look back at how many students missed the opportunity to showcase their talent. How many of them missed the opportunity to have performances that would give them an opportunity to gain scholarships? How many of them lost their zeal to participate? And how many of them, many students lost their parents and friends teachers and coaches and so on to COVID. And many of them lost their passion. So the idea that we are starting back with is to give them their passion back. Give them something to believe in, something to reach out for. And as both gentlemen said, extracurricular activity in secondary school is very important. So that this the amount of violence we have in school right now, right? There's actually a correlation between the lack of extracurricular activity and violence. We have, as my principal always says, we have high T boys in our schools. Boys low little testosterone, filled with energy. And many of them, we can't put them sit down in a classroom and expect that they would just sit there and take notes and do nothing else. They will find this to, to expand that energy.
Yeah.
So we're hoping that as football comes back, as track comes back, as cricket comes back, as badminton, everything else, table tennis, all of those, volleyball, basketball, everything comes back on stream, netball. We're hoping that we all come back with a bang, with a little bit of innovation and a lot of interest.
Yeah, very much so, Mr.
Get our children ready.
Yeah, very much so, because you have a number of things have been touched on there in terms of the loss or the fallout we'll have coming out of COVID in terms of our youngsters being involved in sports. I know we would have lost some of them, and I dare say it may be permanently. We will have to fight a very difficult battle to get them back out into the play field. It's something that you all will have to discuss, the associations together, and probably work together in terms of communication to the bodies, to the agencies that be, to the government, to the schools, especially the schools principal association, primary and secondary, of the importance of getting these kids back out into the playing field and playing, and getting them away from the computer and the phones and so on. So that's one battle you'll have. The second one that you'll have is that coming out of COVID, and probably, as you say, it's probably as a blessing that the sports, the inter-school sports or the competitions did not kick off too quickly, because after 2+ years of lying low, these kids need to get back their physical fitness. So what is very important, and what you all might need to do in terms of all the associations, is to get schools on board during probably July, August. The schools start back in September, with children beginning with small physical activities, simple physical activities in preparation for a full tournament, a full game and so on, because you don't want to throw them out there and they're not prepared, and then you have injuries and then other complications, and you have withdrawals. So you have raised a number of issues. The third one you mentioned, of course, is what is happening in school in terms of the misbehavior of the students. I don't want to brand it too negatively, as I myself as a dean of secondary school. I understand what is happening. If you look at the social media, we have had fights every day. And of course, we need to channel the energy of these students. We need to burn out some of that energy by having school sports back. So we go on a break, and we'll be back with you shortly. Hi, join me, Surajat Marbury, on ITV every Thursday night, 8 to 9 on ieSports Digest, a comprehensive roundup of all sports, local, regional, and international. We will reach out to our villages and our communities in all areas of Trinidad and Tobago to highlight their sporting activities. I'll also invite prominent guests to share their views and address current issues facing sports, focusing on realistic solutions. Join me on ITV.
ieSports Digest, Thursdays at 8 p.m. right here on IETV.
Okay, so we are back, and again, allow me to express sincere thanks to Lazare and Sampson Travel Service Limited, the first sponsor for this IETV Sports Digest. Thank you very much to Lazare and Sampson. Now we look forward to others to come on board. Let's keep this program going. Let's keep this discussion going in all different types of sports. Contact us here at IETV to offer your support. Mr. Maraj, something that's close to your heart, I'm sure. Our girls, and I deliberately left it out in earlier in the program, our girls, our 19 girls have won their 2 games so far, defeating Leeward Islands and Barbados. Your comments?
Well, before you go to that, and you are correct, sponsorship is very much a valuable thing in any organization. And indeed, Lazari and Samson, right? It's correct?
Yeah, Lazari and Samson.
Getting on board with this program is an excellent thing. And like us as well, too, as a school sporting organization, we depend on sponsorship. The second thing, our team, by the way, for this year moving forward is to rebuild and rebirth.
Okay.
All right. And we talked about just now in the previous segment about making sure that when we return to physical activity back in playing competition, that we need to make sure that we retain in as safe as possible for our children in terms of their physical fitness, etc. Now, you are correct. Our girls are indeed showcasing the talent that would have been there at our level. I'm sure you remember in 2018, we took our very first girls team, a girls hardball team to Canada, and they also performed very much admirably. The captain of our Trinidad and Tobago under-19 women's team, Shalini Samaru, as well as the vice captain, Shonal Sau, both went on that tour. And if you watch a majority of that team that is there, they would have benefited from this flow sponsorship of hardball tournament playing here in Trinidad and Tobago over the last 5 to 6 years. Certainly, moving forward, because of the last 2 years, because of the pandemic, what we have to do, we have to restart again with respect to those girls again. Get them back again for what we did for our program initially. All right? So it may not be that we'll get them engaged in proper hardball competition immediately. What we'll have to do is definitely work with them during this term coming up, and then moving forward, making sure that we implement a proper program of activities for them, so that when we do in fact have a full hardball competition, it's with respect to our girls being safe, getting back into playing that sport.
Lovely. So it means that you can use this term here, which is not normally a cricket term, as you said, to get those activities going, especially with the girls, with the younger girls who would not have probably played any cricket for the last 3 years, to get them back on stream, using softball, getting them interested, and then moving on to the hardball and so on. And you did mention, and I'm sure the other 2 gentlemen will be, that concern is with them as well, that sponsorship, nothing happens without sponsorship. Sports is driven by the spectators, by the viewers like you all out there. And the reason why the sponsors are there is because we have viewers who that they want to captivate, they want to get their products to. And without sponsorship, there, I can say there can hardly be any sports. It's massive, but it's needed. And therefore, moving out of COVID and moving back into school sports for all 3 organizations, it is very important that, you know, that there's some statement or something coming out of the authorities, and that is from the government and the Ministry of Education, saying that, look, come September, we will be allowing inter-schools competition. And why is that important? Because if the sponsors are to come on board, they have to know there's a competition. Remember, everything works with budgeting. Sponsors need to have their budget. So for example, you had PowerGen, they would have had a budget assigned. Now, if you don't have school sports, it means the budget goes elsewhere. It means that they cannot assign money that can go to you. And therefore, when you reach the PowerGen now and you're ready to have competition, well, I'm using PowerGen because that's your sponsor, they may have used the money alternatively, and that goes to the other sponsors that may want to come on board. You mentioned Flow. Now, of course, I know that that would have stopped because the girls' cricket stopped. Now, to get back Flow on board, you need to be for sure that, A, we are having girls' cricket again, and therefore we can go back to Flow, do your presentation. The same thing will apply to the secondary schools football league and the track and field, that you all need the sponsors, and therefore to have the sponsors, you must be assured that, look, come September, when school open, we can expect to have inter-school sports, we can expect to have competition. I heard Mr. Brewster mention about the games in Tobago. I know Tobago is a big part of track and field. They have always done excellent. So in order to, and traveling to and from Tobago, even for these activities, it's very costly. So all these agencies, all these secondary school sporting bodies, and it goes by extension to netball, basketball, table tennis, you know, everyone needs to know exactly how we move forward. So, Mr. Gonzales, I guess you will be waiting with bated breath, hoping that the ministry says come September it's all clear?
Could you repeat the question, please?
I said that I guess you'll be waiting with bated breath, hoping that sometime July, August, the Ministry of Education and by extension the government will have made some statements saying that school sports, inter-school sports and competition will be allowed, so that you can go ahead, as I said, and start to look for your sponsors and complete your plannings.
I'm smiling in the context that already at present within the school system, the students are interacting in more ways than one in classroom and also within the school itself, the environs of the school. So to me, the sports in itself is just a continuation of this in various sporting areas and sporting demarcation. So I would want to believe very fervently and strongly that good sense will prevail, and I would want to believe confidently that the leeway will be given so that there will be a much needed resumption of sporting disciplines in the school, since it is so critical of an element in the overall holistic approach to advancement of education. Brewster mentioned about the fact that the indiscipline level is quite very high with the violence, and that is quite true. And here is where sport in particular is an integral part to ensure that it not only placate or pacify, but it allows that innate energy and talent and goodwill of the various student athletes to expend their energies in sporting disciplines that are very productive, positive, meaningful, uplifting, and it can advance even their careers. So I would want to reaffirm that I suspect most likely the relevant authorities, having received all the necessary protocols, health and safety and otherwise, which we have already forwarded, that there will really be the affirmative and the positive leeway given for the commencement of sports that are so much needed. What is rather important here is that principals, with inverted commas, the limited budget that they have to work with, will need to also understand the critical input, impact, and importance of sport within the school system itself. And therefore, decisions will have to be arrived at, as far as even as now, where registration of respective schools are being requested, with deadlines being given by us, the SSFL, for them to indicate which divisions most likely will be interested in, separate and apart from the championship and the premiership division that have already been decided based on the statutes, the constitution, and the rules and regulations of our tournament. So yes, I'm eagerly awaiting the answer to be in the affirmative, and I'm confident that it will be given, and the student athletes can have the opportunity with the rest of us to exhale and to utilize the God-given talents in a very productive way, since several of them, as we would have identified, have lost the opportunity to actually seek and source and attain sporting scholarships in that 2.5 dormant year period. Some of them, on the other hand, were given letters by us and from the Ministry of Education with their resumes, and they were successful. But we had some casualties along the way, which is regrettable. And we are moving forward now to compensate and to provide that platform that is much needed, as in the track and field, as in the cricket, as in the numerous other sports, similarly like football, so that some level of further development and advancement of the sport can take place through the schools, and the beneficiaries, in this case the student athletes, will be able to reap maximum, optimum rewards from our efforts.
Very much so, and very well said. So you touched on a number of salient, very, very valid issues, and we know, all of us know that to get discipline back in school, to get schools under control, we need to get the school sports in. We need to have that channel that the kids can use, you know, to get that energy burned up and get them back involved in the school life in a more meaningful way. And one of the things you mentioned there, and I know it applies to track and field and athletics as well, is the scholarships that are available. Unlike cricket, you know, you all have a lot of other opportunity for your students to move forward to foreign universities and so on. So, Mr. Brewster, coming to you, I'm sure that you would have had the same problem like Mr. Gonzales in terms of the children, our student athletes, that is, need to have the competitions to perform, to showcase their talent to the universities abroad, that this is what I can do. They may have the academics and they may have been able to be in school and get their subjects, but more than that as well, they need to be out there in the field to showcase their talent and therefore be able to afford to catch the eyes of the scouts. And I know that the scouts do come to Trinidad and Tobago to look at our, as they go to the rest of the Caribbean and the rest of the world to look at our student athletes. So Mr. Brewster, how has that affected the athletics and scholarship?
All right, just like Mr. Gonzales said, you know, there are students who would have accessed scholarships from past performances and so on. But there are persons who would have fallen casualty, you know, to the lack of competition. One of the problems we have is that whereas we were held up by an abundance of caution, other countries had opened up and were going forward. Needless to say, earlier on this year in April, on behalf of the Secondary School Track and Field, I went to Jamaica to witness their boys and girls champ. Now, I must say that it wasn't as supported by spectators as years gone by. But the amount of persons that were there and the performances of the students, right? Record-breaking performances were taking place in Jamaica during their boys and girls champ. And I asked the question to one of the president over there, and he said to me, "Listen, this is our showcase, right? Leading up to the boys and girls champ, there were a case in Jamaica where you have to be vaccinated to go into the stadium, and right a couple of days before boys and girls champ, in respect for what boys and girls champ is, they dropped that protocol and said, whether vaccinated or not, you can come to the stadium. And they also kept it dropped for Carifta as well, which was about a week and a half after. So basically what that said is that they recognize what their, I'll say like this, what their number one is. People think it's reggae and people think it's dance hall, but it's not. It's sports. Sports is their number one. And they recognize that and realize that their number one of number one is track and field. That is what anybody knows Jamaica for. So we as a country, we as a Ministry of Education of Sport, we are as people must recognize also, yes, we may be a cultural nation, known for soca and all that, and known for food and all of that. But one of the platforms that we must put forth is that giving our students something to believe in, right? Something to be a part of. And many people think sports is just going out there and you have a talent, right? When you look at the best sportsmen in the world, they are very bright as well, because they have to think. And sports, like nothing else, allows you to use every facet and faculty of your being to participate. So to be a very good sportsman, you have to think. You have to make decisions, you have to solve problems. And many times, because we were so locked down and locked out, our students didn't get an opportunity to think, to make decisions, and to solve problems. So one of the reasons that we have issues now is it's simply because they don't know how to handle certain things. Sports allows for sportsmanship, right? And fair play and all of that. They didn't have that. So when they come into that conflict, they then have issues with dealing with the conflict. Some of them don't know how to give up their right for the peace that would come. And so we really need to get back to getting on the play field, need to get back to not just inter-school sports, but intra-school sports. Sports happening within the school, right? Football competition and basketball competition, cricket, track and field, within the school sports, within the school itself. Because many people are still in that lockdown mentality. Even though we're free, even though we can do much more stuff, many people still have a lockdown mentality. I'm hoping with I tell you straight up, on the 17th, whenever you open up the mask straight away, I will keep mine, because I have a brain. But I know that even in wearing my mask, I am free to participate, free to do. And we need to get that mentality out and allow ourselves to participate, and allow others to participate, and be healthy. Because if we don't participate, we kill ourselves.
Very much so, Mr. Brewster. As you said, although we know we are hoping that this pandemic would end, it has not left us. And yes, we are looking forward to the 17th, but as you say, we need to be smart and realize that there are times we will need to have the mask on. At other times, we will need to remove it, especially in the sporting arena. And I'm glad that you mentioned the intra as well as the inter, because for us to have the inter, we need to start the school sports back in the school itself. And therefore, I want to make a special appeal to principals, vice principal, administrators out there. As former president of the Secondary Schools Cricket League and secretary and being involved for so long, I still think that there are a lot more that administration and schools can do to support schools cricket. Sometimes it's so negative, you really wonder how some of these people reach in a position of administration of schools when the students are your business, and then the students playing sports is a major part of your business. It's not just about academics. We have students of varying abilities. We have students that perform differently in the classroom based on the fact that they are being allowed to perform out of the classroom. You are able to discipline some students better if they know that I have this opportunity to play, and there's a respect for the teachers and the persons involved in the sports. So sometimes teachers complain, and I tell them, I say, if you go out there with that child and play some sports with them and you get them involved or take them to a game, you'll see a different respect coming your way. Love them, love the children, love what they do, be part of them, you know? So we need to get the sports back in school. We need to get the administrations in school to buy into the sports. We know that finance is a problem. We know that schools are operating with shoestring budget. But there are a lot of corporate people out there that can reach out past Pupils Association, Parent Teachers Association, to get some little funding that you can start back the intra-school sports, the little competitions in school, getting the kids back out playing, getting our students back out playing, loving what they do, loving school, enjoying school life, and seeing that the phones and the tablets and the infractions that they have in the classroom that's not really needed can be cast aside if we go into the field and have some sports and get involved. And therefore, we need to really think about it. You know, we need also that information to transfer down from the ministry through the different departments in the school and to the schools themselves, and saying, let's get our kids out back playing, let's get the activities going again in the school, and then move on to the inter-school competition and so on. Mr. Maraj, your thoughts on this?
I don't know if you know, but in January, all of us were invited to CDPF 5, Community Development Partnership Forum 5. And at that forum, they were pushing sports in communities. In fact, what they said was sports contributes to healthy child development, it builds self-esteem and life skills, sports mobilizes the communities, it fosters peace and tolerance, it teaches the important life lessons about respect, cooperation, and leadership. And we are definitely correct. If principals and administrators understand that a school really and truly is the center of the entire community, once a school is engaging in a lot of activities and positive activities for our children, by extension, the community that school belongs to will also play a part in their development. And that's what we need to do. We want to, yes, the school must be engaged, but we also need to engage the communities from which these schools come from and allow the adults to also assist in the development of our children. Because we can't afford to be losing our young people to a life of crime. We can't afford to be losing our young people through suicides. And that has happened in our school system. We can't afford to be losing our children because they just don't see a future for themselves. Sport is one of those avenues that they can pursue and make a career out of. That's the first thing. The second thing is we talked about scholarship. Yes, and you're correct. Because they engage in that positive activity, those videos, those statistics is what help them. And cricket as well too, because one of the issues I want to do, or one of the plans I want to do moving forward, is to engage foreign universities and foreign clubs in ensuring that our children from the secondary school system make it outside there. They may not be able to make it a West Indies team, because let's be fair, there's only a few spots available.
Very much.
All right? And so what we need to do is to give them another avenue so where they can make a career for themselves, a life for themselves, and build a family.
I like the idea that you mentioned of the school in the community. Traditionally, especially the primary schools in the old age growing up, they were the lifeblood of the community, the heart of the community. Everything happened in the primary school. It was like the community center, the village center. If it's sports, if it's religion, if it's culture, everything happened in the school. The parents were part of it, the students were part of it, and they were all involved, and that helped to build the village and build the community. Now, recently with all the indiscipline in school, the problem has been how we address it. And you come to suspension and sending the kids home, you know. But where were they for 2.5 years? They were home. They were home for 2 years. And we get them back in school now, we are having problems. Is the answer sending them back home on suspension for 3, 5, or 7 days? Definitely not. The reason why they were not being suspended or they functioned better before is because the school enabled them, empowered them. They were able to involve themselves in activities in school that kept them busy. And I agree that concept that you speak about, we need to get back the parents, the teachers, the community involved with the school. Disciplining in terms of suspension and sending them back home after they were home for 2 years locked up is not the answer. And I hope that the Ministry of Education can recognize that and realize that if we are to curb indiscipline in school, we need to engage our students, we need to engage the parents, the communities, get everyone involved as it was in the old age. As you say, a good school with good behavior will extend to the community, will extend to everyone around getting involved and really helping us to put a handle on what is happening in our schools and correct the indiscipline and refocus the energy back to education and to sports and providing the opportunities that are there. So we mentioned sponsorship, and I want to get back to this before we end, because without sponsorship, nothing happens. So how are we, Mr. Brewster, in terms of sponsorship with track and fields, with the Track and Field Association?
We at present do not have a sponsor. So I'll say that we open for business. All right. Anybody looking on right now who wishes to sponsor or to engage, I can give my number. You can give me a call directly. All right. If the host so doesn't mind, I can say it out loud.
I have no problem with it. Sure.
All right. So you can call me at 771-0753. That is 771-0753. Right? Or you can email the association by at titsecondaryschools@gmail.com. titsecondaryschools@gmail.com, and let's give you contact information. And we'll get on to you. But we don't have a sponsor right now. 2 years ago, NGC came on board with us. We had ieSports coming by. We had B-Mobile coming by. You know, we were going to be able to leave House of Assembly helped out. And we must also say the Prime Minister's Sports and Culture Fund also helped out. The Port Authority of Trinidad and Tobago helped out to get the students over there. and some PTSD was very helpful as well. And so with a little bit of everybody coming in, we made Tobago really, really good. But this year, the season is much larger, right? So we start in September. We should have what they call a cross-country league. No, sorry, middle distance league, which should take us about 5 or 6 events, 6 to 8 events, where students will have to go between Tobago and Trinidad and that kind of. So we really need sponsorship at the moment. And we're hoping that if we can get that sort of sponsorship, the plans that we have in place would come online, not only to put on competitions, but also to do coaching clinics and lots of other stuff, right? And so, we open for business. Anybody wants to sponsor, wants to assist, you could either go big or go small. We're ready, right? We open for businesses for us, and we'll talk.
Very much thanks. So it means that you have been fortunate in getting different agencies to assist to carry on with the sports. But as I said, it's very costly to run these organizations, to get the kids involved. Sometimes people will not realize, and our viewership need to know that when you take a child out to perform in a sporting event, whether it be cricket, football, athletics, netball, volleyball, table tennis, you need them to perform at their best. They cannot perform on a hungry stomach. They cannot perform if they are thirsty. When students go out on these events with these different school sporting bodies, yes, the school has a budget, but as I say, it's limited. They do try to help. But the sponsorship also enable that the child has a good meal that they are able to perform. So you give them something good to eat, drink, and even when they are finished and they are going home, you make sure, because not all these children come from homes where they have 3 square meals a day. A lot of them depend on the school feeding program. And therefore, why are we talking about sponsorship here in terms of helping to run the competitions and so on, which are much needed? We need sponsorship for meals, for drinks, for transport, to move around. As I mentioned, moving from Trinidad and Tobago is very costly if you are taking athletes across the waters, So every step of the way, you need assistance. Even if you have the prize giving ceremony, because you cannot have the kids come out and play at the end of the day, you send them home at the end of the league year, and they don't have something to show for it. So even if it's a certificate, a trophy, it comes at a cost. So that's why the sponsorship is needed. Mr. Gonzales, I know that secondary schools football has been, I must know, I've been there a lot more fortunate than the other bodies. But how are you all in terms of sponsorship coming up with 2022?
Very well. I must extend kudos to the previous executive members, since we have been established since 1964, from where we started off with just about 24 schools and have now grown to 114 schools, of which we have competitions varying from under 13 Form 1 boys straight up to the Premiership Division boys, with the expectation to have a Premiership Division girls. However, we will commence that one for 2023 season. We have and continue to remain very loyal to us as some of the present sponsors, even though some of their terms have actually come to an end. We are around the table now with further discussion, not only to have sponsorship, because we look at it further than beyond sponsorship. We look at it like partners, partnering with the philosophy, the policies, and the thought pattern and mindset of the SSFL, so that persons coming on board would not just be coming on board for us for a 1-year contract, but who can be there because they actually believe in the ideals, the aims, the goals, the aspirations of the SSFL. And we continue to remain very committed and dedicated and appreciative of those who are presently on board and around the table. For example, Coca-Cola, First Citizen. We are still in discussion with Shell, still in discussion with Sportsmax Digicel. We expect that there will be a return by the THA, critically, very, very important, since they have actually made massive contribution towards offsetting the expenses for traveling and or accommodation for for schools that are involved from Tobago in the Premiership Division, and in particular, the Sports Company of Trinidad and Tobago. We are, within the last few months, last year into this year, have been having other discussions with other numerous and varied entities that are interested in coming on board, even as recent as last week Friday. Another company or organization in this case is showing much interest. But what is very important is that we have a very elaborate, explicit 2022 budget proposal that covers the length and breadth of the various areas of concern, expenses, as well as revenue earners. And therefore, it focuses on the league, the intercol, the Big Five, the interzone, in addition to transportation, accommodation, among other things like equipment, etc., refereeing fees. So therefore, with these sponsors, those who may want to pursue and acquire maybe title sponsorship must live up to that expectation, which means they need to be above board. I'm not going to say above board in the sense of putting out enough money there that there are no other competitor who will be able to match the figure. So they will most likely be to get title sponsor. Or another way in moving forward as we're looking at it, there could be varied title sponsors for a particular league or a particular area within the SFFL. So the budget proposals has been made, and we're utilizing it when we're meeting with the various sponsors. We had Malta and Futa with us.
Yeah, so
whether or not they'll be able to
Mr.
continue
Gonzales,
is our next.
Yeah, so I heard you because we are running out of time. Yeah, I heard you, but I want to give Nigel a say because we are running out of time. I know that I heard something. I heard that I'm very happy with the involvement of THA, and I know they have been there because they have assisted secondary schools cricket league as well while I was there. They are very helpful. Before I move on to Nigel, I want to say, Mr. Brewster, SSFL could be our big brother. They're talking plenty sponsors there. They could lend you one, or they could be our joint, So keep that in mind, Nigel. We talk. Mr. Gonzales mentioned longevity in sponsorship, and we know that you have one. I mean, it's definitely is a record, Power Gen sponsorship of secondary schools.
Indeed, the Secondary Schools Cricket League is indeed very fortunate to have one of its marquee sponsors as the Power Generation Company of Trinidad and Tobago. Power Gen is a gem of a corporate entity. To be sponsoring a league for 25 years is indeed a milestone, and we are definitely correct. And you're also correct that the THA as well too will be part of our sponsorship program moving forward, because the Tobago Zone in fact is in discussion with the THA for their programs. Okay.
So thank you, Nigel. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being on today's program. I'm sure you will be back here again. We have had a lot of discussions. We have been able to touch on various aspects of secondary school sports. We have tried to bring to the fore the need that, most important, we need to get school sports back up and running. We need to get the kids out playing. It's going to help a lot with all aspects of our social life, of our children's life, of everything in the community, getting things back after COVID. So thank you all for being with us today. Again, to our sponsors, Lazare and Sampson Travel Service Limited, very heartfelt, thankful. So how much thanks can I give to you all for being the first sponsor of this program? Thank you very much, and we look forward to a long relationship. As with Power Gen and secondary school, probably Lazare and Sampson and ieSports Digest can have a 25-year relationship. I will not be here, of course, it might be somebody else, but who knows? So thank you very much to Lazare and Sampson Travel Service Limited. As with Mr. Brewster there, this program is on. We also need sponsorship to continue. I'm sure what you have heard tonight would have been entertaining, interesting. You probably would have learned a lot that you didn't know about secondary school sports. To the viewers out there, thank you very much for viewing on. Stay with IETV. Keep looking at our various programs, and I'll see you next week, Thursday at 8 p.m. on IETV Sports Digest. Thank you and have a pleasant night.